Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the case of Katherine Hoggle and her two little babies that went missing. And this happened back in 2014, but the case still has been updating and reemerging. It's really sick and weird. It reminds me so much of Lori Vallow, along with a little bit of a twist of Casey Anthony. So if you guys like these type of videos, don't forget to subscribe, like, and let's get to it. So Katherine Hoggle, she was not supposed to be alone, unsupervised with her children, but still somehow on September 7th to the 8th, she managed to take off with both of them, Sarah 3 and Jacob 2. So in 2014, Katherine and her husband Troy had 3 kids together, a boy who was 5, a daughter Sarah who was 3, and then Jacob who was 2 at the time. Katherine lived at Troy's apartment in Clarksburg, Maryland. The reason for this is because Troy thought it was important for the kids' mothers to be around them, even though she wasn't allowed to be left unsupervised with them because she's had a long history of mental illness, including schizophrenia and paranoia, and this started all about the teenage years when she was in high school. She, at this point, had already been involuntarily committed to a psychiatric hospital a few different times. September 7th, Katherine with her kids went to go spend the day with Katherine's mother, Lindsay, at her home in Gaithersburg, Maryland. So the scene is Randy and Lindsay, which were Katherine's parents. They were all together. Lindsay and Randy had often provided rides for Katherine because she wasn't supposed to or allowed to drive. So during the day, Katherine had went out for a brief period of time. Sorry if my eyes are red. My allergies have been so bad, so that's why you kind of hear my voice like it sounds really weird. At some point, Katherine asked Randy, her dad, for his keys to his car so that she could take Jacob to go get pizza. For whatever reason, he agreed, even knowing the circumstances. 3 hours later, she returned home without Jacob and without the pizza. Katherine told her parents that she had dropped off Jacob to a friend's house for a sleepover. They apparently accepted this with no problem, didn't tell Troy, the husband. Later that evening, Katherine returned back to Troy's house with her oldest son and her daughter Sarah. Now, Troy returned home around 1 a.m. that night when he got done work. He was really tired, and when he got home, he checked Jacob's room and he wasn't there, but he claimed he wasn't worried about it because a lot of times Jacob would sneak off into the oldest son's room and sleep with him. So he was just kind of really tired from work and out of it and kind of just was like, oh, it'll be fine. Which, I mean, I get working probably till 1 a.m. It's probably exhausting. I'm sure he regrets that for the rest of his life. So he ends up going to bed, and then he wakes up the next morning and he realized Jacob's not there and Sarah was not there either. This is where Katherine's story begins to change. She tells Troy that she dropped them both off at a new daycare, even though they weren't enrolled into any daycare. Still at this point, nobody had told Troy that she claimed that she dropped off Jacob for a sleepover the night before. Troy says at first he was willing to accept the daycare story because that's how they initially started off the oldest son in daycare. It was pretty similar. But over the course of the day, that's where he learned the different stories, the different whereabouts, and that's when he decided, okay, it's time to go pick up the kids from the daycare. So he ended up trying to convince Katherine to go pick up the kids from the daycare, and then she willingly agreed. And this is where it kind of reminds me of Casey Anthony going on like this goose chase. I don't know if that's the right way you say it. They get in the car and he's asking her a name, a place, the location, what it's called, and she's giving him these like vague answers, not really telling him much of anything. And so at some point they end up going and picking up the oldest son, and then they go drop him off with Lindsay, which is Katherine's mother. It's said that as soon as this happened and they dropped the oldest son off with the mother, that Katherine's mood quickly elevated and changed and shifted, and she got really aggressive, really mad, moody. And that's where he decides it's time to go to the police station. Instantly, Katherine claims she remembers where the daycare is and remembers all the info. And she says that it's in Damascus, Maryland, which is a few miles away, and they should just go right there. But she kept saying, can we stop at Chick-fil-A? Can we stop at Chick-fil-A? Because she needed to get a drink, because she claims that her medication often made her drowsy, which her husband says was a typical normal request because sometimes her medicine could make her nauseous if she didn't eat. So they ended up stopping there. And what the husband says is that she went in, got the soda, and like came out into the car. She drank it, took her medicine, and then she said, I need another refill. So she goes back into the Chick-fil-A but never comes back out. He realized, you know, what's taking her so long. He runs back into the Chick-fil-A and realized she rolled, and she was actually vanished, gone, poof, disappeared for 4 days. Now that right there speaks to me that she had a guilty conscience, so just keep that in mind. Of course, once she disappeared, he immediately got the police involved, and of course this sucks because the timeline is so off because she made up all these different stories, and you know, in these type of cases, time is of the essence. Luckily, 4 days later, somebody recognized her because it was all over the news, and you know, they've got her, brought her in. They never released the information of her whereabouts for these 4 days, so we don't know if she stayed with a friend, lived out in the woods for those 4 days, or what. But when they picked her up and asked her where her kids were, she said that they were safe with a friend, and that makes me think of Lori Vallow, right? Then she changes her story and says that she left the kids at a local park. Of course, this is what reminds me of Casey Anthony, again with the goose hunt chase thing. She tells them that she'll take them to the park and show them where she left them. They go there, there's no signs of the kids. This is where they charged her with a misdemeanor of child neglect, and then she was put in an institution for her mental health until she was able to be declared to stand fit for trial. Now, as Catherine's 3 years mental health institution limit for her misdemeanor charges, because you can only stay in there for so long by law, and her 3 years were coming up, they upgraded her charges to 2 counts of felony murder. This is where she was ordered to stay at the mental health facility for at least 5 years to give them a window of her to be able to show that she's competent to stand trial. The police think because time has went on so long that if the kids were still alive or with a friend, somebody would have noticed them, because it has been such a big because it was such a big case, their faces were everywhere, it would be really, really hard to hide the children. So as of now, the judge rejected the dismissal of the charges against her, and the prosecutors actually said that if she got released and the charges got dismissed, that as soon as she got out of the facility that she's in, they'd charge her again with murder charges, and that they would have her sit back in the facility again for another 5 years, or until she's able to stand trial, because nobody wants her out. They want this case solved. At least just say what happened. If you think you're tough enough to take your kids' lives, then be tough enough to at least suffer the consequences and admit the truth, right? Now, here's some of the theories about what happened, and some people think that maybe she was having like some sort of episode mental break, and she was having delusions and hallucinations and did something to kids and she'll never remember, or she doesn't remember. Personally, she remembers in my mind, and I believe this strongly, wholeheartedly, because she disappeared and vanished from that Chick-fil-A for a reason. She knew she was getting caught. Very eerily similar to Casey Anthony, where she ran them all around because she knew what had happened. I don't believe at all that she was having a mental break. Maybe she was having some sort of mental thing when she was in the middle of doing whatever she did to them. But I definitely think that she remembers what she did. She knows what she did, and that's why she ran. Other people speculate too that she had a clear plan and this was it, and it might have not been a great one, or maybe she had a plan that she wanted to execute and it just didn't go the way she had hoped or planned. Some people believe, of course, that maybe she did give the kids to a friend, which I find that really hard to believe. Like I said, these pictures have been everywhere. So many people have seen them. I think it would be really, really hard to try to hide these kids kids or somebody not see them or witness something, especially with how everybody's got social media these days. Everyone's got their iPhones out, and it's just, there's really no privacy anymore. So I just don't feel like in my gut that these kids are hiding with a friend. Is that she tried to run away with the kids, with just them, and her plan kind of fell through. Like maybe she went and left them somewhere and was planning on coming back, and that's why they both kind of went missing one by one. I'm not sure if I believe that either, because I'm sure a hiker or somebody would have found them or found their whereabouts, whether they're alive or dead or not. I'm not buying into that theory as well, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I want to hear what you guys think about this case. It's been so long. So I hope you guys like this video. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.